Hey guys, I know it's been 3 to 4 months since I did part 1 of the Shidou and Barou swap battle, but I wanted to talk to you guys about part 2. So let's get a refresher of part 1 before we get to part 2 though. So Team X, Shidou would win their match against Team W and potentially draw against Team Y, as Shidou is more of a team player than Barou. Isagi would get eliminated against Shidou and Naruhaya, and Barou would lose to Ryo and Kunigami since Nagi and Ryo would still face off, as Ryo would want revenge and lose. So Igaguri and Isagi would be in the wildcard. We get to the 35 people reviewed, and Bachiro would be very devastated that his best friend Isagi couldn't do jack without him. And now we get the review that since Isagi is gone, I doubt Rin would score against the top 5, so Shidou would actually be number 1 for scoring against them, and Rin would be number 2, since Shidou would have scored against the top 5. Now, if that's set in stone, I would have had Kunigami take a spot in Team B, hoping to be with Chiguri, and Naruhaya would take a spot in Team A to be with the best, being Itoshi Rin and Ryusei Shidou. Now, the tryouts arc would go similarly, except Team A could potentially lose the first match since Naruhaya is weaker than Isagi. Now that we've caught up, let's talk about point systems. Now in my versus battles, I always have point systems, but here I have not implemented a point system for swap battles. So let's talk about who did better in first round. It had to be Shidou because we've actually seen what he did, so Shidou would take the first selection point. The second selection point would have to go to Shidou as well, as he dominantly carries his team throughout the whole way, and he plays with smaller fries compared to Barou, and Barou actually got carried by Ryo and Kunigami and lost his elimination match, unlike Shidou, who won his elimination match where he could have been sent to the wild card. And the third selection has to be Shidou again, as he does a better job and gets to play more games since he's the number 1 and actually scored against the World 5, as that is also part of the third selection arc. It's just merged with the tryouts arc. Now with that set in stone, the score right now is 2-1. Can Barou equalize in the U20 match? Let's go. The starting 11 would be similarly, except that Bachiro would be an offensive midfielder instead of Isagi, and I would take Kurona as left striker back, as Isagi's role was to maximize Itoshi Win's performance and coexist with him, which goes up in Bachiro's alley, as he was the one who helped him score against the World 5 in the first place, and his monster would be of great help in the up front, as he did nothing on defense in the original manga. Now in this version, instead of choosing Shidou, Sei would obviously choose the Barou lion, trying to tame him down by his fangs. This would lead to Shidou staying on the BlueLock team, but won't be a starter, as Onyx stated in the video that I'll just play the footage over. So
as a player, I feel like the starting lineup for the BlueLock 11 would remain exactly the same. Ego himself stated in chapter 109 that if Shidou were to have one of his violent outbursts in the middle of the match, he would most certainly get red carded, putting the BlueLock 11 at a severe disadvantage. Not to mention that throughout all of the BlueLock 11 tryout matches, not even for a single moment did Rin, the heart of the BlueLock 11, have a chemical reaction with Shidou. Ego even goes as far as to say that there is not a single person in BlueLock that would be able to handle the egoist Shidou Ryusei. However, Ego did mention that if things were going south in the game, that he was saving Shidou to be Rin's replacement as a wild joker, a player that could turn the tide of the match single-handedly if the BlueLock 11 found themselves at a pinch. However, we know that this never happened because Shidou ended up playing for the U20 team. However, just because the BlueLock 11 had the same starting lineup as before doesn't mean...
So we would have the U20 scene where Barou would really make a scene like Shidou did, but he would just trash talk Sendo for being a weak striker compared to him. He wouldn't really give up his spot because he's not going to give up his spot. Sendo's not going to give up his spot. And Japan did not want BlueLock to get shine, so they would obviously try and hide Barou the best way they could, because it's sarcasm, am I right? Now the first half of the game would go nearly the same, since Barou and Shidou rode the bench, but Isagi is in the wildcard, and Kunigami is not, and Bachiro, like I said earlier, would take his role, and Kurona would be starting. Rin would pass the ball to Bachiro, and he would immediately start cooking. Hayate would be the first problem that arises for Bachiro, but he would get trapped, and in the original he passes it to Isagi, but now there's no Isagi. He would see that Teru's right in front, and would pass it to Yukimiya, and we would see the birth of a chemical reaction between Bachiro and Yukimiya, both breaking through narrow and the left side of the defense, as Yukimiya would try to get a gyro shot, but IQ would show why you need to invest in his stocks. Oh man, oh man. So then we would get to see that By stopping it, he would get it to Itoshi Sei, who tests Sendo to score, but he misses, and Sei catches the rebound to score the first goal, making it 1-0. Now, since Isagi wasn't involved in the first goal for the Blue Lock team, we would see Nagi get a goal back to make it 1-1. As Ego stated in chapter 118, Yoichi Isagi is essential for Rin Itoshi's awakening, and even Rin confirms it by saying this warped relationship benefits them both. The game would resume, and even Yoichi Isagi is the one who made Rin awaken flow state. So Ego was right. At the 30-minute mark, Rin would ask his brother that, don't I get a hello? And he would try to get the ball back for his team, but Sei would bait him out, making him draw out his right leg and blitzes past him. Rin would catch up to him immensely fast, declaring a sibling war. Rin tries to get the ball back, but Sei keeps it protected with his right leg and passes him again with a block turn. Rin would try and catch up again, but Sei would use his shoulder block to push himself away from Rin. Literally, oh no, I made this really sad. Then he hits him with a nutmeg with that 3-year deja vu effect. Now, finally, Sei has finally broken through the midfield. Sei tries to get the ball to Sendo for an assist, but Watchdog Nico was having that no-nonsense defense and sends it to Karasu, who attempts to break down the U20 defense, but utilizing Otoya and Shiguri to get himself an open shot, but he doesn't calculate the fact that Sei a freaking Toshi would read that play like a children's book and send that ball further than Kaiser's Magnus impact failed, but it lands straight to Ren, who would land a devastating Trivela to make it 2-1. Psych! IQ would be there. Rin wouldn't have Isagi to distract IQ from getting the ball to his advantage. Since IQ took on the fact that Isagi and Rin were very linked up, he had to watch out for both of them. Here, he only has to watch out for Rin. Meanwhile, Batra is there in this game. Batra does not have that presence that Isagi does, and reaction with Rin that he does as well. Now, we would get to see Rin miss, and Bachura would see an opening to break through the defense since IQ was with Rin, and with no IQ, Bachura would properly cook the U20 defense to score since Sendo didn't have that defensive mindset of an awakening just yet. This would give Blue Lock the lead 2-1. This deficit and Sei's words would finally light a fire under the U20 team, with all of them pressing for an equalizer, which in turn would make the Blue Lock 11 resort to plan B per Rin's orders. Corona and Bachura would press Kitsune Zato, and here's the difference. Here, they would actually rip the ball off of him since Corona is much faster than Isagi at this point of the story. So he would work with Bachura to move up the ball, blitzing everyone down, trying to get past the U20 iron wall. So they would have a triangle chemical reaction with Seishu and Nagi joining in the fray, as Nagi was the one to stay up front per Rin's orders. And with Nero and Aiku both waiting on Bachura, he would have to give it up to Corona. And since he was free to move, more free than Nagi, he would try to pass it to a right open Nagi, who fakes out the ride to perform a two-stage freaking body, but freaking Itoshi Sei again gets the ball to stop and rescue them. The reason why Sei was the first to get back was because when he did shoot in the original canon, Isagi and Bachura were behind him. But in this version of the story, Sei has no one behind him. So it means Sei would just track down the ball because Sei was the closest outside of the box besides Isagi and Bachura. So the game would end 2-1 at halftime. Now, we would get to the original events where Rin would have been crying, reminiscing about Sei, but that's not a backstory story today. U20 team would be in despair, trying to figure out how to survive, and Sei would say he's going home. The Blue Lock team would be in high morals, and then Bao would be pissed, about to say something, but IQ says, "I'm sorry, we were weak. I was the one who gave the bet. And now that I know that, we have one last card to play, and his name is Shohei Barou." And IQ would be hesitant about this because he knows Barou from the Nationals, so he would have really not wanted to. But with the fact that this was his last chance to keep Sei Itoshi on the team, he would do it. Now that we have Barou entering the pitch, let's talk about how the hell this duo would work. So we first of all have to analyze the differences between Shidou and Barou. For Barou, first of all, his charging skill is insane, as he just bursted through two defenders to score his goal in the U20 match, one of them being Neo, whose only good feature was being his strength. And I believe in terms of pure strength, Barou has the edge over Shidou. For the previous feat mentioned, Barou's leadership is also underrated, as after he scored the second goal for the Ubers team, he made the whole team have a stronger edge, and and being the #1 hard-headed egoist will bring a new edge to this U20 team. His heel flicks, chop feints, and other stuff that Shidou can or possibly can't do. There's so many advantages to having Barou over Shidou, and Barou has something similar to Isagi, which is adaptability. Not as great as Isagi, but he has the terms to actually improve during games, unlike Shidou, who only gets excited by the flow, but that will only increase his shooting power and his offensive awareness. Barou, on the other hand, can increase his midfield, offensive, and defensive abilities with his flow state. He has possibly one of the top 3 best flow states in BlueLock. So now, I didn't even need to talk about his defense because U20 is only known for their iron wall before Seitoshi joined the team for a game. Now, let's talk about how this translates to the pitch. The game would start and Sei would pass it to a charging Barou who would be cut off by Chigiri. Keep in mind, in this point of the story, Chigiri doesn't really know about Barou unless he really kept a keen eye on him in the trials arc. But thanks to Wei and Kunigami knowing him from teaming up with him in the second selection, since they beat him and Ogaguri, we would have a situation where Barou could potentially be dispossessed. And he wouldn't pass it to Sendo. Instead, he would use his front dribbling to get past Chigiri. But like Sansetsu did in the second selection, Chigiri would catch up to him without directly pressing him. Sei wouldn't implement this plan of Sendo trailing down Barou as he did with Shidou in the original canon because Shidou was a passer. Barou is not, so he wouldn't even need to waste his time with it. And Barou did not conquer his no passing state unless he is comfortable with it, like how he usually does in the first selection, because he did not meet Hiragi in this point of the story, which means Barou would get dispossessed by Chigiri and Sei would catch it and uses a reflexive pass to get it to Barou, who charges in for a header. But keep in mind, Nico is short and weak and wouldn't be able to keep up with Barou freaking charging with a header. Golly! So Barou would header it, but Gagamaru catches it and sends the ball off to the BlueLock 11 for a counter. The ball would land to Nagi, who would try to move forward and sends the ball to Bachira, who has a 1v1 with IQ, allowing Rin to slip by, and Bachira would assist Rin, making the game 3-1. The BlueLock stadium would be in shock. Everyone would be in shock as BlueLock would have a comfortable 2-goal cushion lead. Chikyu would fall down, indicating that he is tired. This would lead him getting subbed off for Hiyori. And Nico, even though he isn't tired or got carded, would have to get out solely for the reason that he is small and weak. He would have to get subbed off for freaking Rayo, so Rayo would have a better chance of stopping Barou. Now this would get Seitoshi fired up because he could actually lose to his twin brother. And if he loses to Rin, his whole plan, which I think, because he's similar to Itachi Uchiha, of Rin becoming a dominant player and finding out his true ego for playing football, would not work. Because if he beats his brother so easily, it wouldn't motivate Rin further, and Rin would have a downfall that Nagi's kind of having now for beating Isagi. So we would get to see Seitoshi play at not 100%, but trying early on in the game at the 55th minute instead of the 75th, which is 20 more minutes of Seitoshi gonna kick. So Seitoshi blitzes through Nagi and Bachira, then passes through Karasu and Otoya. Rin would try to stop him to no avail as Sei does a lift off above his younger brother. What a flex! And then he would nutmeg Yukimiya, and then he would just do a heel flick past Chigiri as Nagiri uses Chigiri trapping abilities to slow down Chigiri's thought process in the second selection. So Sei would do something similar to that. Sei would pass it to Barou, but Rin would realize his play by submerging his mind with that of his brother and actually foul Barou instead of just getting the ball, because in this version Rin has never met Barou, because Barou's U20 trials match was for Team Karasu and Otoya against Team Nagi, so Rin would have never actually played against Barou, so he wouldn't have known his unpredictability state or how to defend him, which means we would get a free kick and Seitoshi would know how to create a goal hunter due to experience or something that would adapt to Barou. So what the plan would be was he would pass it to Sendo, and Sendo would pass it to Kitsunato, passing it to Cho, passing it to another, over and over and over and over and over and over until it passes back to Seitoshi, and Seitoshi looks like he's about to shoot or make a massive pass forward. But just like how Isagi and Hiyori fell for Karasu's ball heel flick in the PXG game, Sei would do a reverse ball heel flick to Barou, who is waiting like the lion seeing through his prey in the garden of the grass and the savannah. scores a massive mid-range kick to make it 3-2. The BlueLock 11 would try and make a move to score, but Sei Itoshi fired up with Seafood Esplanade and make a direct pass to Barou, who's about to enter throw, and without Chigri, there would be no one to keep up with his thunder dribbling phase and heel flex, and he would break through the midfield and defense, and then he would shoot a screamer that would get saved by Gagama. But one thing about Gagama throughout this game was that he was usually punching the ball away. There was only one time he actually caught the ball and kept it to himself when it was Rayo was guarding him, but with no one to properly guard Barou would make him have to deflect it, and Barou would rebound that with his freaking knee to slide it in to make it 3-3. The game is equalized, the crowd would go crazy, everyone would be fired up. As for the next 5 minutes, it would be a grueling back and forth affair, and then Batro would try to cook the whole team and score to make it 4-3 with lots of tries, but Sendo fired up would stop it and send the ball to IQ, and IQ would get the ball to Sei, who passes it between Yukimi and Karasu, leaving them stunned as he didn't pass the ball. But another striker, Kitsuna Zato, would get his shot blocked off by Rayo. Sendo would get the rebound and shoot, but it's deflected by Nagi and Hiyori. Sei gets it, but it's cut off by Otoya. Since Isagi isn't there, he or Corona would have been the only two fast people to react to him in some circumstance, and he would pass it to IQ. But Rin deflects it, seeing what his brother was trying to do. Sei sends a corner, and Rin thinks it's going to Aiko, so he marks him, but instead it goes to Barou. And with no Isagi to get in Barou's way, like he did with Shidou, Barou would power through and get himself a hat trick of a header to make it 3-4. Barou! Barou! The crowd would be chanting as he has made a hat trick. The world would have known the name of Shorei Barou. So now they would get ready to commence, but the Hublood projector would be on, showing number 10 in red and number 13 in green, meaning Ryusei Shidou has finally entered the pitch, subbing in for Rin. Rin would be mad, asking Ego why the hell is he getting subbed off, and he would simply respond, "We are losing, and I wanted to use my Joker card. There's no better time than now. If we lose this game, we don't exist. So fuck off." This game would continue with everyone trying to go for a counter to make it 4-4. Now, I did consider Kunagami instead of Hiyori, since Kunagami is more of an offensive presence than Hiyori in terms of striking abilities, and this team would have provided with goals from Kunagami for sure. But the problem is, Hiyori would be able to pass to Shidou the way Shidou likes it. Even though Ego did say that no one can tame him, Karasu has good intel on Shidou, on how Shidou works. And the only problem with Karasu is that he doesn't have the body to control it. But he would trust his femboy Hiyori to do that. And so they would get a ball in, and Hiyori would make an insane reflexive pass to Shidou, who would make the game 4-4. The game would continue with everyone trying to get the ball into Shidou again, but IQ would put extra pressure to block Shidou because IQ would be the only one in an aerial circumstance to keep up with Shidou. So we would get a play where Nagi tries to score, but Fukaku would luckily save it, and IQ would try to lock down Shidou, but Shidou kicks it up and the ball is just leaving. Shidou's thinking if he should pass it to someone, but it says his cells are exploding. They're waiting to implode. They need to bust a nut in the room. So he gets a freaking reverse bicycle kick from half court, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and bust a nut inside that room to make it 5-4. With 4 minutes left of the game, it's looking like BlueLock 11 may have saved themselves and saved the whole BlueLock corporation from going extinct. So Sei would make a play for Barou to score a mid-range shot, but Gagamaru would save it and throw it out to Nagi, and he would receive it, but IQ would deflect it at the last moment, as IQ would be very fired up. The whole team is fired up, and the whole team would be pressing forward due to IQ's orders. Sei would have more options to give, but a low ball to Barou would be perfect, and he would try to score, but Rayo would deflect it. But similar to the Ubers game, the hyena Shidou Sendo would come with the rebound to equalize the game 5-5. Tensions are rising. Everyone's pressured. The U20 trying to avoid being shamed by people who weren't even known till today, and the BlueLock Corporation trying to fight for survival and also overthrow the U20 Japan's team, as if they beat them, their names would be carved in the world for history for overthrowing these clowns. The pressure would be there. Everyone would be tense, locked in, and it would be top performance on top performance. This is because now would have to play defense. Everyone would try to get the ball to Shidou, But Sei can predict Shidou's movements easily. As, how do I say this? Isagi had a very easy time dealing with Shidou in the late minutes of the game. So with that being said, Shidou would have to pass it to Nagi. And Nagi would be fired up and awakened. Because without Isagi, Nagi in the second selection was very fired up, especially in the 4v4. And he would try to score, but Nayo would try to stop him. And IQ would fail as well, as IQ would have to be on Shidou. With Nagi passing through Nayo, we would have Shurei Barou. And this is the part where I talked about his defensive feats getting awakened. With Barou in full-on flow state, he would be able to charge down and stop Nagi and pass the ball to Itoshi Sei. And if Shidou could freaking run to the shot course in the final play of the game, I'm pretty sure Barou would too. So Sei would get the ball. Everyone would be going in. Aryu would have to press full throw. We would have an instance where freaking Nagi tries to attack Sei because he was first, and then we would see Sei pass through Nagi, and then he would pass through Shidou, then Bachor. Karasu would scream not to rush him that he would buy some time, but realistically Karasu was not doing anything and he would get cooked too. And with no wind to hold back Sei, they would be done for, as they would have had to send too many men on Sei, and Sei with his final attack, knowing that it's the final attack, everyone would be getting in the pitch in the penalty box to try and get a goal in. And Aryu would be on show, like I said. Otoya and Corona would be trying to be in position to help Rail stop Barou in case Barou gets the ball. Sei would pass it to Barou. All three of them would leap against Barou, but it goes a bit up higher than all of them would have expected. It goes to the captain, the snake, the one whose flower died but blooms again. All of your IQ finishes it off with a header to make it 5-6. This would boost everyone's morale in their stadium, as all of your IQ, the captain himself, saves U20 Japan from shame and wins the game for them, which means BlueLock would be cancelled. Barou and Sei would have been known around the world as the Hatra hero and the prodigy himself saving U20. We would get Sendo being recognized as the ace of Japan, as he saved them from even having to get a draw because he would have scored the equalizer just a few minutes ago. But the BlueLockers would get pro clubs. What a story. This was part 2, so this is the end of it. If you guys would like a part 3 where we revive BlueLock by the magic plumber of plot armor and fan servers demand, let me know in the comment section. If we get 20 likes, I will immediately start working on it. But for now, comment section, it's up to you to save part 3. Now, I enjoyed making this video, and I just want to say, let's get Shidou to Italy and Barou to France. Peace out.